October 7th, as we know, Simchat Torah was the most difficult day for the Jewish people since the Shoah. Between 6:30 and about maybe 2 o'clock that day, 8 hours were the most dangerous for Jews anywhere in the world since the Shoah. And not even a Jew. If you were a Jew, somebody even supporting Jews in Otef Aza, the Gaza envelope, you were living in the most dangerous place for Jews since the Shoah. Who could ever have believed that? I know from both of my sons, who are both officers in the army, they were never concerned about the Gaza border because they were told that's under control. One son is a tank commander and the other is a commander in the paratroopers. In Israeli thinking, there was preparing for a war, but it was in Lebanon. And always in Israel's military thinking, the big buildup is in Hezbollah and Lebanon. And Gaza is under control because we thought it's under control. It's actually incredible that almost 50 years later to the day, we once again were so blinded, not by what we didn't see, but by what we saw. Sometimes what blinds us is because we're so clear of what we think we see that we don't see anything else. The findings were the very famous idea called Israeli intelligence fell prey to its conceptia, that's his wording, a concept. And I won't go into the whole concept, but the concept was, in short, there will not be a war with Jordan and with Syria and Egypt, and they had strong svoras, both American and Israeli intelligence. All that came crashing down on then. And they said Israel fell prey to a certain military tfisa. The same thing happened here. Israel had all eyes in the world on the Gaza border. We've got all the greatest technology in the world. We've got all the greatest eyes. You can't have more eyes on that border. Yet we looked, but we didn't see. I came across a midrash in Lekach Tov in Parshat Toldot, which says regarding Yitzchak's blindness, Vatichena einav miroot. His eyes were blinded from seeing. Pshat, he didn't see physically. Vatichena einav miroot bera'ato shel Esav. He simply looked and could not see what Rivka saw. You look at the midrashim, Rivka said he's a murderer. He will molest. Yitzchak, can you not see what evil there is? He said, I don't see it. Vatichena einav miroot. Is my son capable of this? Are sons of God capable of murder and torture and the most horrific things that you all know, and we'll see some of them? He couldn't see it. And when you can't see something, you don't see it. And we looked, but we didn't see because we thought we had it under control. They can't do such things, they won't do such things, and they're not capable of it. As Jews, we don't think human beings are capable of this. As Westerners, we want to believe that at the end of the day, people just want to live and let live. But we got a wake-up call that some people don't want to live and let live. They want to live in order for others to die, in order for them to die, in order for others to die. I came across an incredible midrash of Rabbi in Midrash Rabbi. It says regarding Hagar, when Abraham sends her out, that she was worried about Ishmael dying, and Hashem says, "Don't worry." It says, "Vayiftach Hashem et einei." Hashem opens her eyes, and she sees that there's water. Rabbi Binyamin says, "But was the water there before? How come she didn't see it?" I couldn't believe it with the midrash. I'm Rabbi Binyamin. Kulam becheskat sumin. We're all blind, unless Hashem opens our eyes. On that day, our youngest son, Daniel, he's an officer in tanks. He was stationed in Nachal Oz in the south, and he's there with his tzevet. Yonatan was at home with his then fiancée. He was at home with us in Yad Binyamin. About 8 o'clock in the morning, after lots of missed rockets and everything, he understood something was going on. His commander told him to come to Sderot. He is a mempei, what's called a company commander. So he was off for Shabbos. He had left his M16, which he never does in the base. He said it's Simchat Torah. He doesn't like to walk around with a gun unnecessarily. Yonatan on that day makes his way in his car with a handgun and another handgun of his brother down to Sderot. I wasn't worried. What can be possibly happening inside? He did say there was terrorists, but I remember him straight away said, yeah, Can't be from Gaza. He doesn't know what it is. We saw the one mini he saw on his phone, one minivan. Yeah, so I really thought you really need to go. What, there aren't enough soldiers in the south. You, the guys training new recruits, needs to go with his handgun. What is this, I thought he's being a little bit Rambo and whatever. But I did ask him to phone his officer and say, why does he need to come? He phoned his officer, and I could see his officer didn't know what was going on. And he just said, if you've got a gun, come down to Sderot, to the meet at the Magen David Adom. 4:30, from after multiple phone calls on my wife and our phone, and Shabbos he phones, he says, Dad, I'm okay. Straight away, I've been shot in the leg. He said he's at the hospital, he's being treated, he's fine. He said two things. He said, I've been trying to phone Daniel the whole day, and his phone's off. He hasn't responded. I did fight in Nachal Oz, where he's based, and his tank wasn't there, which is a good sign. He says, you have no idea what this base looked like. You have no idea. Every single vehicle had been hit with an RPG, dead bodies all over the place. He said, I'm very worried about. He ended up fighting in Sderot, and he eventually led a force into Nachal Oz, the base. That's where he saw that my son's tank wasn't there. He fought for about an hour 45 until he was shot, and they saved about 25 tatzpitaniot, soldiers which were hiding in all different places. And he and the two people on either side of him were injured. The one on his left was shot in the back, the one on his right shot in the stomach. Thank God they're all okay. The jeep coming down to Nachal Oz of Maglan soldiers in front of them was shot by an RPG, and three out of the four died instantly. Their jeep had the RPG, went straight over their head. He didn't have a proper gun because he only had handguns. He had borrowed a driver's gun, which had jammed after two shots. His friend next to him, Yedidia Sror, who lives in Yerushalayim, is a mempei with him, was shot in the stomach, but he's, thank God, doing well. So Yonatan took his gun and took a helmet from a soldier from Seret Matkal who had been injured. This is what we were dealing with. This is what we were dealing with in the day. So for me and my wife and our family, the fact that Yonatan is alive, relatively lightly to moderately wounded, is an unbelievable gift from Hashem. Our other son, Daniel, hasn't been as lucky, and we do hope and pray that that will change. Since that day, for the first 3 weeks, he was considered missing. One soldier was killed in the tank. There's 4 in a tank. The other 3 were missing for 3 weeks, meaning there was no evidence of any pictures, no videos. Most likely taken hostage. I don't know for sure, but in all likelihood. That's been the status the last 4 weeks or so. So we had the situation for the first 3 weeks of a son injured, supposed to be married 9 days afterwards, another son missing. Once we understood the status of missing, where they don't have enough information, is going to continue for a few weeks, we decided painfully to go ahead with a wedding. My wife was the hero here. She said, listen, they're a frum couple, what are they going to wait around for? Let's have a chuppah, let's have a wedding. Please God, Daniel comes out soon, we'll have a big party. We spoke to the Khatan and Kala. I've often quoted that his direct commander, he came and told us, he sat to visit him on the Tuesday and told us how he fought and how they fought so heroically. He says, Jonathan, no, you're going to get married? What's going on at the wedding? He says, Ani lo yeda, I'm faked. I don't know. So I said, I'm faked, the commander, Mata Omer. He's a traditional guy from Tel Aviv. He says, Jonathan, tale al madecha, put your uniform on. Titchaten hayom ba'erev. He says, po bagina in your garden. He says, ha'aba shel charav, your dad's a rabbi, knows what to do, right? And then he says, OUIsrael tzarich smachot. OUIsrael tzarich smachot. He says, we have enough pain and enough process of the Jewish people to mourn. He says, OUIsrael tzarich smachot. So that for me gave me a sense of maybe a natural, visceral response. It's not crazy. It's not crazy. Because we're in this crazy reality. Once we knew that Daniel was going to be missing for a while, we decided with the Khatan and Kala to go ahead with the wedding. Very difficult. My son's closest friend is his brother. The first thing he said at the chuppah was that there was no eventuality that he ever saw himself being at his wedding without his brother. I don't know what I was thinking, but in my mind I was thinking that we're not going to talk about Daniel. The rabbi's not going to. I'm putting Daniel out of my mind for 3 hours, and that's how I'm going to cope with it. As the rabbi starts the chuppah, and he says, how can we start this chuppah without mentioning the one who's not here? And then I'm thinking, oh, God. And then he mentions him. We davened for Daniel, and it was very, very hard. But you know what? We wiped our faces 2 minutes later, and we had an amazing simcha. We had an amazing, amazing simcha. The thing going through my mind at the wedding was that you can hold charada. You can have charada, fear and trembling, and you can have chedva, you can have happiness, and they can coexist. It's possible. It's possible because I know that we lived through it. There's nothing heroic about me. We are ordinary people who Hashem gives kochot to. I think in times of challenge, we are called out to have resilience. And I think with all the horrific pain on that day for so many people, for Klal Yisrael, the shock, and for our family, of course, is that Hashem has brought us back together. And that is our great challenge now, is to do everything to preserve that call. Because if we aren't going to do it, no one's going to do it for us.